them read off and answer them to the best of our ability. Someone says I'm going in and out. Are we still having audio trouble? Please type in and let Erin know if you can hear us well enough now or not.
I can hear you. Yes.
I can hear you.
I think it's our best to hear you.
Good to go now. I know.
All right. All right, looks like we're good to go. So if you will begin to type in your questions, we'll go ahead and see if we can get the process started and get you some answers going here. We've just finished up the last of our Prepare to Schedule workshops last week, so we've had how many of those now? 12 of those, I think. So some of you should be started on your process by now, hopefully. I know we had maintenance weekend this weekend, so there's some things going on. We do realize that. Like the email said, you want to go ahead and email the service desk or call for critical information. They are working on it as quickly as they can, but this is not about that. This is about Power Scheduler, and if anybody has any questions pertaining to setting up their scheduling information. So the floor is wide open for you to begin the process if you've got questions. Right now we only have 14 people on the line. I know it's probably a hectic day for most of you. Okay. I don't see any questions coming in yet. Remember, we talked to you after this upgrade this weekend. Once everything settles back down, you want to be sure and reload the Power Scheduler engine, because there were some updates done to the engine, so you want to be sure and update that within your computer that you're going to be using to build the master schedule or to load your students. Same process as before. You'll just download that engine, and it is actually in Power Scheduler, and I'll show you where that is right now. Scroll to the bottom. Whoops, got to get into a school, not the LEA office, because Power Scheduler is a school function, not an LEA function within Power School. So you're going to scroll to the bottom, click on Power Scheduler, and on the left-hand side under Tools, it's Engine Download. That's the process you will go through, is the engine download, once everything has settled down some with this new upgrade. Do we have any questions yet?
When is it best to schedule homerooms? Should we set up for the build or load and do it on the live side, or do it as part of the process?
That's going to be totally up to you. If your homerooms are random, you can do it. You can do that within the scheduler. Just make sure everybody signs up for one. If they're not random, I would wait until after you've built your master schedule, create those homeroom sections, and drop the students into them. Or you can do that on the live side. Once you've completed and committed after EOY, when the system comes back up, you can create those homeroom sections and drop the students into them there. Totally up to you. But if they're not random, you're better off not to create them, because the system will assign them randomly.
Do most schools let the computer do the scheduling, or do most schools put a good deal of constraints in to get that process done?
That depends on you. In order for the school to do a true student-driven schedule, you need to let the system do it. The more constraints you put in, the harder it is for the system to schedule. The more constraints that you put in, the less student-driven your system, your schedule will be. Totally up to you. Anything that you can do through a preference on the courses and on the student-teacher side, the better off you are. That way you'll have less constraints. Aaron's typing. Just give him a minute, and then he'll get back to another question.
Can you
Yes, I did.
can you show them the engine download again?
Okay. Engine download. If you are in your school, on the start page of Power School, you're going to scroll to the bottom, click on Power Scheduler. Once you are in Power Scheduler, you will scroll to the bottom under Tools, and it is Download Engine. You're going to click on that. It will appear here. You're going to click on the zip file, and it should begin the download into my downloads. Once I've downloaded it, I can either save it or I can open it. It's going to download it into my downloads. Give it 25 seconds here. And let it go through its download process. And you probably will need some kind of unzip software on your computer. Then I'm going to open up my downloads. It's going to say Scheduling Engine. I'm going to install it. I've got to say yes here because I need it. It says it's already there, and do I want to install it? Yes. I've already installed it. I know, but I want to overwrite it. Install, and there it goes. Simple as that. Again, keep in mind that this is a scheduling Q&A webinar. It has nothing to do with the upgrade. We are not discussing any upgrade information here except for reinstalling that engine download from the upgrade. Everything else must go through the service desk. We do not know anything about the upgrade. So that's all got to go through the service desk.
We got the same email they got. So.
Yeah.
Will our school's registration groups carry over into next year?
Registration groups. I'm not sure. Are you talking about your screen, your course groups on your screen for registration? The groups do carry over. Course groups. They do carry over, but what you've got to keep in mind is those are attached to last year's course catalog ID and last year's term ID. So if you're going to use them again, there's some processes that you must go through to update that information. Remember, course numbers have changed, so you may be better off just to create new course groups and use those as a basis for what you had last year. You may want to rename those something like 2014, 13, 14, so that when you do your screen setup, you won't be tempted to use those. You'll make sure you get the right ones. So, you know, your course groups, you may name something like 11th grade English, put the school number, and 15, 16, so that you know what year those course groups are for. But if you truly want to reuse them, it's going to take a lot of work to get that reset up, and it's not something that we recommend you do.
Instructions are on Power Source if they want them, but they're on
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah.
And they have to have DDA access, I
Yeah.
believe.
So according to Wendy, the instructions are on Power Source, and you need DDA access to do it. It looks like you're able to use them, but I think if you attach them to a screen, they're not going to work because they have last year's catalog ID and term ID attached to them. I'm sorry, what?
Do all the engine stuff with Fire.
Oh, Aaron just reminded me, I'm sorry. If you're using Power Scheduler, you want to use Firefox browser, Mozilla. It does not work with Google Chrome, or it does not work with IE. It doesn't like Safari very well. So Firefox is the browser that you want to use with Power Scheduler. Next.
That's it. We just had another course groups question, and all it says is course groups.
Okay, someone typed in course groups. That engine download is available, should be available now. I kind of would hold off until everything else is settled down. You do not have to have everything completed before the students begin to register. You do have to have the students there. If you're using online information, screening, and registration, you have to have that set up. You do have to have your courses pulled over in order to set those up with your course group. So totally up to you when you start this process. Just because you haven't completed all the steps that were on that prepare to schedule checklist, you can still go ahead and start your online registrations.
We have someone who wants to know, how do I know if the scheduling engine has actually downloaded?
How do you know if the scheduling engine is actually downloaded? If you go through that process that I just went through and it says install, completed, next, finish, it's there. You can go out and try to find it saved on your C file, but it's out there on the hard drive somewhere, and somebody may be able to lead you to how to find it. It may be in program files, but if it says completed and then you say next, continue, and finish, it's there. And you'll definitely know when you start to do a build and it doesn't work.
She said the download said exactly that, so she's good.
Yes.
Okay. Now's the time to ask your questions.
Yep, you got a bunch of people here.
Can you go through the steps to set up the course catalog?
Course catalog. Okay. You're going to log into Power Scheduler. Oh, no, sorry. Yes, you're going to log into Power Scheduler. Course catalog is very easy. Are you talking about setting it up on the school side, or are you talking about getting the courses available to the from the LEA to the school itself? That would be the question. To create a course catalog, once your courses are available, you're just going to come here and click on Course Catalog. You're going to say New, and I'm going to create a 2015-2016 course catalog. This one happens to have my initials beside it. Submit. My catalog is now created. In order to make that catalog active, I then have to connect it to an active scenario, okay? Because it says here it's not active. My 14-15 one is what is active, and that's not what I want. Let me quickly auto-generate a scenario here. To auto-generate a scenario, you just click on Auto Scheduler Setup, and you walk through the process of the lowest term possible that you're going to teach that year, the number of periods and the number of days. Check off the terms that you're going to have. Put in the dates of your school. And in order to connect that course catalog right here, Course Catalog, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to pick my 15-16 active course catalog, click Submit. Now when I go back to course catalogs, you can see that that 15-16 is now the active catalog because it is connected to an active scenario for the year 15-16. Description is not necessary, but you want to make sure in your description if you're going to have more than one catalog, because you can have more than one catalog and more than one scenario, but only one can be active at a time. So you want to put a description in there so you'll know date or when it was created or something about it that's different than the other catalogs. You'll want to make sure you have that information available for you. Erin's trying to keep track of all these questions and the ones from the other day, along with the recordings that Wendy's posted. We'll try to get some kind of log set up so these can be out there so you'll have them.
There's only one recording posted.
Right.
Remember, we forgot to.
I forgot to push the button for the first one. Yeah. But this one is being recorded and will be posted.
There are no questions.
Thanks for doing the question.
Maybe
There's only 14 people on.
an abbreviated webinar today, this morning,
Might
especially since we have so much going on with the upgrade this weekend, or since maintenance weekend. So with only 14 people on and very few questions, we may just go till 10 if nobody else comes on and call it a morning if y'all don't have any more questions.
Because we'll be back at 1.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes one.
Our school calendar is not ready. When I go to years and terms to do setup, it says it cannot be changed later.
It can be changed later. If you are using Power Scheduler, you want to make sure before you begin your last load that you go to years and terms and update that information and make sure it is accurate before you hit the last load button and the commit button. Okay? Has to be updated because what you have in Power Scheduler will overwrite what is on the live side at the school level. LEA needs to make sure that they get their dates accurate also before EOI for next year.
Okay, let's see. The course catalog you just did was at the school level. Do I need to do this at the district level first before the schools can do this? April, all you need to do at the district level is you need to make sure you have your year-long, oh, yeah, I forgot, I'm not talking about computers, thank you.
In case you didn't hear me, April, at the LEA level, all you need to do is make sure that you have the year-long stripe created in years and terms, and any new course codes that you need to create for next year, you'll need to create those and make those available. But as far as availability of the other courses, when DPI marks the course as being unavailable, that takes care of it, so you don't actually have to go through that availability step any longer. I think we were showing you guys how to do that because we didn't know that that had changed until like right near the end of our 3-week road trip.
If I set this to be the active catalog, how do I know that it will only contain approved courses?
Go ahead.
The scheduling catalog can only contain courses that are made available to that school from the LEA. So doing the course availability of the LEA is how you ensure that will happen.
So you can make courses unavailable if you need to, so that they're not using any courses that you don't, course codes you don't want them to. And any course codes that the state has ended or that you've not made available, if they are showing up in the course catalog, you will see the red triangle, and the courses will be in red. And those courses and any information for those courses will not transfer over during the commit process. You may also see within your catalog some courses that are showing kind of active. It kind of looks like they're active. If you click on active status, most of the time we've seen courses that have check boxes in them if they're active. Right now we're seeing some with boxes and no checks, so you may need to have the LEA make those unavailable for your school at this time. See these all down at the bottom? I can't uncheck them to get them out of my catalog. The LEA needs to do that for me. This is something new that just happened within the last couple of weeks. Matter of fact, last week. Yeah. Wendy was talking about the red triangle. Let me see if I can get one to show up in red for you. Let me show you what it'll actually look like. There is what it will look like if it's a course that has an end date or there's something wrong with it. You'll have the red triangle beside your course catalog, and you will have the course will be showing up in red, and you need to fix that. Because as Wendy said, any sections or any information that you have attached to that course will not commit back to the live side.
Somebody's asking if the LEA has to uncheck the red courses in each school's catalog.
No. LEA, the school should be able to uncheck them, scroll to the bottom and hit submit, and they should go away if the checkbox is there. If they are like these courses down here at the bottom that I have that have, whoops, sorry, let me click on my active catalog here, that have no way to uncheck them, then yes, the LEA is going to have to take some action with them. Or leave them there. Just don't use them for sections or anything because they're not going to commit back to the live side when you hit commit. So if they bother you being there, then yes, somebody needs to take action.
Should years and terms have a July start and a June finish?
Years and terms should have the very first day that the students set their seat in a seat at your school. LEA level should be the very first day that the students set their seat in a seat at your earliest school. Last day of school should be the last day the students have their seats in a seat at your school, or at the LEA level, the last day the students have their seats in a seat at your latest school. No padding whatsoever in your school calendar.
Nola says, okay, so what was that changed last week?
What changed last week is, if you'll notice here in the course catalog, I guess you can see my screen. Have I got my screen shared?
You do.
Okay. If you'll notice here in the course catalog, it used to be all the courses were checked, and if the school wanted to make it inactive, all they had to do was uncheck it and submit. We have some now that are showing up with no check. So the schools can't do anything with them. The LEA needs to go and remove that course from the 15-16 edit availability for that school if the school does not want to see it. Okay? She says, got it, thanks. Good.
Do the departments need to match exactly what is on the 15-16 state course list?
Yes. your department should be being pushed out from the enterprise controller. What I would suggest is that you print, screen that that department list, and as you begin to do your rooms and your teacher assignments and your courses, if the department is not there, it needs to match that exactly. I think there is one department missing, ECS or something like that. I have actually sent that up asking if it's going to be pushed out or if everybody needs to add it. So don't do anything with it until we find out, until you hear from the NCSIS site what to do with that course department. All your courses should have departments on them now. If you have some that do not, you need to let the service desk know, and they'll check and see why not.
So it says, I have 2 health and PE, one way and one another. So she has a duplicate department.
That needs to go to the help desk, because what's going to happen is you may have some courses connected to one that has that department ID and connected to the other one that has a department ID. So they're going to find out which one they can get rid of and which one's right coming from the enterprise controller. Somebody down. Okay. We're going to try to go about 30 more minutes if we don't have any more questions.
Yeah, we've lost 2 of the 14. We're down to 12 people on the line.
I know it's a tough morning. It's
Yeah.
a tough morning for everyone. I know we had like 28 or 38 registered, so we will be back this afternoon at 1.
Donna says if the departments are pushed out, why would they provide a new button at the top?
Because new button is core functionality for Power Schools. Departments are set up in this instance by North Carolina. So they want to make sure that we have them exactly like North Carolina has them. The new button is Power School core functionality. Keep in mind that Power School is not only used by North Carolina, but the rest of the world. We do things our way, but we've got to keep that in mind when we start to use Power School. I can't turn that new button off just because it would turn it off for the world.
And the world might not like it.
Yeah. The world might be a little mad at us.
That's right. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to touch it. We're down to 11 people.
Long silent pause here.
Anybody have any questions?
There is under Tools a checklist that you as LEA coordinators or you as data managers may want to start using along with the checklist that we've sent you, so that you can put dates in here and tell how far along you are on each of these steps throughout the system. Keep in mind, departments are not required, but are highly, highly recommended for teachers' rooms and courses. They should already be on your courses, so they should be there. If not, you need to add them, but in order to make your schedule work better, you need to add them to rooms and to teachers.
Carolyn says, thank you for this session. You're welcome, Carolyn.
I know we'll end up with more questions later on as people begin to get into this process, but if you can get some of them answered now, it may help you, down the line. Aaron wants me to sing. I don't think anybody wants me to sing. Everybody would hang up then. My husband actually kind of turns the radio up in the car when I start singing. So,
well, my kids used to say, Mommy, stop singing, please. It's pretty bad.
Go ahead.
This is Tessa with the service desk. I'm just going to put in a blurb about the state reports. No, you cannot run them yet. You will get an email. They'll come from the NCSIS mailing when you can run them. We are aware that transcripts and reports are not working, and we are also aware that there are some issues with the North Carolina customizations. This has all been reported. You don't need to put in more tickets on it. We are working on it, and an email will most likely go out when all this has been cleared up.
And there's still that no enrollment or no withdrawal or any of that, right, Tessa?
Yeah.
Okay, none of
None
that.
of that. An email will definitely go out when you can do that.
Oh, we've got 11 people. We gained somebody. Woohoo!
Ask a question, whoever just came on.
Yeah, and I don't know who it was that just logged on because I hadn't scrolled through all the names. So. Okay. Okay. Please ask your questions. We are anxiously awaiting more questions.
Just a reminder to get your students into your Power Scheduler for requesting purposes. You need to go to the live site and set the next school year. That's what moves the students from the current year into Power Scheduler for you. Before you do EOY, there are two things for students that have to be done, and that's next grade and next school indicator.
Get them in Power School so you had us do this check,
Right.
Schedule the student checkbox.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, sorry. Schedule the student checkbox needs to be checked also.
Can you go back over how to create a catalog?
Okay, in Power Scheduler, under Scheduling Setup, Course Catalogs, you will click on that, and you will say New. You will create the catalog. You'll just name it something and give it a description and click Submit. I've already created one here. Here it is. It will not be active. The only way to make that catalog active is to go to your active scenario, which is this 1516 one, and I'm going to come in here, and when you come here, it may show that it's connected, but in order to make it active, you've got to scroll to the bottom and click the Submit button. That connects that catalog to the scenario and makes it an active catalog. That's courses that have been pushed to your school from the LEA level, which is in that catalog for the 15-16 school year.
Okay, we've gained some new people. We're up to 13 again.
Woohoo!
Please ask your questions. This is your time to ask questions about scheduling. We have a room full of people waiting for questions to come in.
Anticipation. Anxiously waiting for you to ask questions.
Maybe this is kind of a little Jeopardy thing.
We need to add some music here so we can, I'll bring a radio next time. We can turn on the radio during the long pauses.
When will the calendar for build workshops be finalized?
Calendar for build workshops we hope will be finalized this week, and maybe next week get you some information out about that. We have been out of the office for 3 weeks, so we've been unable to touch base with each other and sit down and look at that calendar. But I hope by the end of this week it will be finalized and we can get you some information next week. Keep in mind those build workshops are going to be 2 days, not 4, and it's going to be for a very, very limited number of people from an LEA, maybe 1 school and the scheduling team. It will be limited to 7, right now, 7 people to register for, 7 schools to register for the workshop. And you will decide what school you need to come. Will it be your most needy school? Will it be your highest school? Will it be your middle school, who you can hope, not middle school, but middle, okay, I just had a brain hiccup. No, your
TPS.
skill level, your middle skill level person that you want to come and get more information and get them better equipped to possibly even help you later on down the road. They're laughing at me because I had a brain hiccup. So it'll be a decision that you'll have to make. But it'll be that 1 school, whoever's entering the data, and that school scheduling team. The build workbook is on PowerSource. You can go out there and look at that and walk through the steps with that. We've handed out several things about errors that you may get, so you need to make sure that you've done the validation and get those errors cleared up before the load process before the build process begins. There's also on PowerSource there are distance learning modules that you can use, which are very, very helpful. Just keep in mind that that is also core PowerSchool. So any North Carolina information you'll need to keep in your mind as you start this process. We had hoped to have some Camtasias available for you. We've got some recordings done, but we sent them to somebody else within DPI to, quote, pretty up for us. And so we haven't heard back from those, so we'll be seeing if we can find those out, something out about those this week also, since we're back in the office. Because I know we told a lot of you they'd be out there, and they're not there yet. Sorry about that. Is there anything else you'd like for me to go over quickly that I can go over? Keep in mind, let me tell you one more thing, periods. Periods are numeric. Periods are numeric. If you change the name, like ID1, if you change the name to like 61 and the ID or the abbreviation to 61, you cannot change the ID. Keep in mind that when you pull some reports and when you pull from DDE, it does not pull the name or the abbreviation, it pulls the ID. So if you want to report that shows the name and abbreviation, it's going to be one you're going to have to create yourself because everything within PowerSchool, except for a couple things, pulls the ID. And DDE pulls the ID, not the name or the abbreviation. But they both must be numeric. They cannot start with a 0, and you cannot have a 0 period. You can move your periods up and down. But keep in mind when you print a student's schedule, it prints the schedule in ID order, so that period 4 that I've moved to the top will appear in ID order 1, 2, 3, 4 on the student's schedule. We are highly recommending that when you set up your auto scheduler for this year, you do not include those at before school and after school periods. You just schedule the core periods that you're wanting to schedule in Power School. Before you commit to the live side or after you commit to the live side, you can go back and add those extra periods into your periods. Okay, Diane wanted me to mention some reports from last year, like your relationship reports. If you've done your relationships last year and they worked beautifully, you want to go to last year's active catalog, make last year's catalog active, and print your relationship report. You can actually do that, reports and course relationships. I'm not going to have any here. But that will give you a basis to start your information for the current year. There are several other good reports here, pre-scheduling reports, course list. You can see if you have any zeros, room list, student list, teacher assignments to make sure all your assignments are in there. Course request tally. Once your requests are in, you can print that. If you've not gotten assignments yet, hand that to whoever's on your scheduling team and say, these are the requests we have. You know, what are the assignments going to be based on that? And then you have post-build reports. Once your master schedule is built, there's all kinds of post-build reports you can use to analyze your data. Under functions, you have auto-create rooms, auto-fill student information, auto-fill course information, and auto-fill teacher information. Keep in mind that those are for the masses, so you just pull that up and whatever you put in there, it does for every course. Auto-generate course, rooms, and teacher assignments can only be used if you copy your master schedule from the current year to next year. Okay. Any more questions? We're up to 17 now. For those of you who are just signing on, if you've got some questions, go ahead and ask us. We're not getting many questions this morning, so we may only hang on for about another 10 minutes because we will be back on this afternoon at 1 o'clock. So you can always log back on then, and we'll try again. I mean, we're just not getting many questions this morning. I know you all are busy with the upgrade, so that's understandable.
After you auto-generate, can you go at that point delete the master schedule?
Yes, once you've auto-generated your information, you can go to functions and delete master schedule. Now, what you'll want to be sure you do is once you've copied that master schedule, you've got to go back to your scenario. You've got to fix your years and terms. You've got to reset your schedule year. You've got to fix your dates. You've got to fix your periods or your days. If those changed, make sure that teacher assignments are all taken out of there that were connected to any periods that you might have changed. You've got to update all that information. So don't forget to do that, or you'll be working in last year's data based on last year's data.
We only had 9 people registered for this afternoon.
Looking at our,
Can you walk us through a relationship example? Spanish 1 goes before Spanish 2.
relationships, we all know in this world that relationships are hard to do, okay?
Use them sparingly.
Yes. So, someone asked if we could walk through relationship, like Spanish 1, Spanish 2. So let me see what this database actually has in it.
And before she begins, I'll just make a note. The question asks for prerequisites. We're going to show you course relationships. Remember that prerequisites can only exist once per course per LEA. And you can only use currently active course numbers at the state level in your prerequisites. So those are really not recommended, but course relationships are another thing entirely.
Okay? When you start your course relationships, you want to do this all in the same order. So I'm going to pick Spanish 1. I'm going to click on relationships. And I'm going to say new. I have Spanish 1 in the middle of my page. I'm going to relate it to Spanish 2. So let me find Spanish 2. I'm going to say, what does Spanish 1 have to do to Spanish 2? Spanish 1 must load the term before Spanish 2 and submit. Okay? Then I'm going to find Spanish 2. And I'm going to say relationships. I need to change my thing at the top. I'm going to say new. I've got Spanish 2. I'm going to associate it to Spanish 3. What must Spanish 2 do to Spanish 3? Spanish 2 must load the term before Spanish 3. So on and so forth down the line. It kind of reads from the middle of the page, and the help is very confusing when you do the help. But if you did relationships last year and you got them to work, go to Power Scheduler, to your scenarios, 14-15 scenario, and make it active. Submit it. Go down to reports and print that course relationships report. There it is. I can print that out, have it, okay? Then I can go back to my scenarios, go back to the 15-16 scenario, and make sure I make that one active again so that I have the right scenario active. Any more questions about that?
Any questions at all? Please ask us your questions.
We're here for you.
I didn't hear it. Cricket.
You hear our crickets in here? We have some goofballs in here with us.
They're making the time pass by a little more
That's right.
fun.
The information for the build workshops will go directly to the coordinators and nobody else. They will get the information and they will let us know who they want to be registered.
And that those workshops will not be posted out on the website, so don't expect to find them there. Coordinators will get the list.
You'll need to, if you're a data manager or a counselor or principal, you'll need to talk to your coordinator about that information. Any more questions?
Okay, if we don't get any more questions, because we've not had many for the last 15 minutes or so. We've had one or two pop up. Then we'll end the call at 10, and we will come back at 1. So if you want to rejoin us at 1 o'clock, just go out to the website and register for the 1 o'clock session for today, and then you can join and ask your questions. If your coordinators, maybe send out an email to your schools asking if they have any questions that they want you to ask, or send the information if they have questions and let them log in and listen, since they will be the ones actually out there doing it. That's fine also. We want to make sure that we get the information, out to the people that need it. So.
Got about a minute left if you want to go ahead and ask some questions. One thing I will remind you to do, years and terms. Once you've got your years and terms set up, notice here I did a scenario. You need to update that information. This is in your book. But you also want to click on Edit Terms, click on the blue hyperlink, and you want to actually input this file, import file term ID number. Okay? You want to be sure you do that for each of the terms that you have. And they must stay in order. Okay?
I'm reminded of something that I don't remember what it was. It left me. Just like that. How do you update info in the scheduler after changing on the live side?
You can't.
What kind of information are you talking about, Nola? If you can give us some more information, Nola, then we will be better able to answer your question.
This system is not like our old system. You can only commit once. It's not like our old system where you could create that master schedule time and time again on the live site and schedule your students after EOY, load your students. It needs to be done on the Power Scheduler side before you commit. Or once on the live side, you can drop your students in by hand after EOY. Just as a reminder, base your information for Power Scheduler and committing on the end of the year EOY, which is going to be that last week in June as far as we know right now. So allow yourself enough time to get that commit done. If there are problems with the commit, you want to allow at least a couple weeks so that you can get a hold of the service desk. They can wipe that commit out for you or see what the problem is and then get those courses and information committed back to the live side. But you need to allow enough room for that to happen. Okay? Did you hear back from Nola?
Nope. Oh, here she is. She's going to look back at her notes. She can't remember. She just remembers that she kind of seems like she remembers something from last year.
I'm not sure how any of us remember anything from last year, Nola. As we started this process, I looked at my book and went, what did I mean when I wrote that down?
Yeah.
You know. So look back and maybe come on this afternoon and let us know. If we have no other questions, I think we're ready to sign off for today.
For the morning.
Yeah, for this morning. So I'm done for the day. I'm quitting. No. We'll go ahead and sign off for this morning. If you think of anything, please log back on, send that email out like Wendy said, and see if any of your data managers, school counselors, or anybody like that want to go ahead and sign up and log on and ask some questions this afternoon. Would be nice. But if there's no other questions coming through, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and we will see you this afternoon. No, we won't see you, but we will
hear you.
speak with you this afternoon. Thanks, and have a great morning.